Welcome to the Pixel Retentive Podcast, where we, a business owner and an artist, discuss the business of art and the art of business. Hey friends, I'm Carl, founder of Epic Made.
And I'm Ross, creative director at Epic Made, and we are the hosts of the Pixel Retentive Podcast, where we share our thoughts on creativity, art, and business. Past guests include Marcy Selsberg of Blah Blah Blah, Gage Mitchell of Modern Species and Evolved CPG, as well as Adam Martin of Macroverse.
We are forever grateful for the sponsors of our podcast and are always looking for new sponsors. And as always, this episode is brought to you by the creative gurus at Epic Made. Epic Made is a collaborative of expert artists and animators who help brands tell powerful and engaging stories. We've demonstrated our expertise in visual storytelling, fantasy pop culture, and detailed world building in collaboration with some of the biggest brands on planet Earth, including Sci-Fi, Nickelodeon, and TNT. Visit getepicmade.com and let's collaborate on your next creative campaign.
Awesome. With us today, we have Lisa Larson-Kelley, who is the founder and CEO of Quantious. Over the past decade, she's grown the company from a small two-person enterprise into a sought-after marketing agency working with some of the biggest names in tech. With her background in design and programming, Lisa brings a deep understanding of emerging technologies and is able to successfully bridge the gap between tech talk and marketing speak. Thanks for coming on, Lisa. Happy to have you.
Thanks for having me.
See you again, friend. And just so our audience can get to know you a little better before we get into the meat of today's episode, we got a couple little quick hitter questions for you. So,
Okay.
All right. So how long have you been doing this and what brought you to your industry?
Good question. Quantious has been around now for 11 years. And what brought me here? Let's see. Do you want the short story or the long story? The short version.
The in-between.
Yeah, the mid story, the medium story.
The medium story is, I started out as a designer and then taught myself HTML and got into what was at that time called new media. And just got fascinated with technology and realized that I was really good at explaining it and telling the story, explaining the technical piece. And then I realized that I could actually sell that too. So I started writing my marketing copy for tech and realized that big tech needed that and was able to, through relationships, get into Google. And now we're working a lot with Meta and Shopify and just going in and helping them expand their marketing team's scope and scale.
Very cool. And I know we've talked about that a little bit because we know each other pretty well at this point.
You actually helped you a little bit.
Yes, they're in.
Yeah. So we've had some fun working together and all the things. But I thought what was really fascinating about your story is that you had one really good relationship with someone who ended up kind of pinging around these tech companies and just kept dragging you along. And I think that's probably important for some of our audience to hear that, the relationships really can open doors for you more than anything else. So,
really, yes, your relationships and your reputation.
Yeah,
really making someone shine in their position, in their role. There's the loyalty is there, and they're going to recommend you and take you with them.
For sure. That makes a lot of sense. Obviously, you got to really deliver, but
yes, exactly. And that's what we do, right?
Not diminish that at all. You got to show up on point for sure. So,
yeah.
All right. So, other than AI, what is top of mind in your industry right now?
Well, Apple kind of disrupted everything, right? A little bit.
The memes are so good right now.
Oh my gosh. They decided to dip their toe into what they're calling spatial computing.
Yeah.
So it's got everybody activated. I think it's great. I don't plan to run, I love my toys and I usually will run out and grab every gadget. I'm probably not going to run out and spend $3,500 right now.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good news is the charger doesn't come with it and it's only $800 apparently.
Oh, well. And then you want Apple Care, right? I mean, that's another $500. So
Oh shit, it's crazy. It's so. It's almost like they did it just to annoy everyone, right?
Yeah, just to
The price point was like, what can we do that would really be sensational and just irritate everyone? Let's price it there.
Yep. Let's just see how many people are going to do it.
Yeah, geez. It's just a thought. It's a total loss leader just for fun, like, our stock's through the roof. Let's have some fun. Okay, cool.
So
here, one last one. So tell
oh yeah, that's right.
You're all right, Ross. Tell us about the project that you're most proud of.
Oh, let's see. I think it's the Times Square billboard.
Oh,
The one.
tell us about that.
We work with Meta, and a lot of times we're behind the scenes. Most of the times we're behind the scenes.
Right.
A lot of the stuff we work on is, not for public. We're helping them with things that aren't quite ready for the consumers yet. They're we work a lot with the research team and all that, so we don't get to show off our work very often.
Sure.
But we were working with the marketing team for Workplace, which is their internal, or it's like a white label version of Facebook for enterprise.
Okay.
And so we're working with that team, and they had a campaign, and their agency kind of dropped the ball. They had an idea, but then they couldn't really deliver these big billboards for Times Square. And we have someone on our team who's done it for Disney 1 million times. And she's like, I can do this.
Heck yeah.
And so we stepped in, and within, I think it was less than 3 weeks, we, delivered these animated billboards, and they were up in Times Square, and we saved them, saved their hides, and got to show off our work. So that was our...
Wow, that was fun.
Yeah.
Very cool. All right. Well, thanks.
Yeah, that's awesome. So on this episode of Pixel Retentive, we are going to be discussing AI again, but rather than the legality of it, we're going to theorize on possible futures of a fully integrated AI world. Lisa's got some reading material she's been checking out. Carl and I have debated topics about this, debatable conversations about this all the time. So looking forward to making this a really fun episode. So Lisa, why don't you start us off? What have you been reading recently?
Yeah, I actually pulled a book off my bookshelf that my husband had for some reason. I don't know where he picked it up, but it was called Our Final Invention by James Barrett. And it was written maybe 10, 12 years ago. So before OpenAI or any of this stuff really started. And it's artificial intelligence and the end of the human era. So it's a pretty dark look at AI. Yes. And so I've been working my way through that. And it's, basically a look at how it's looking at it through the lens that AI it's just going to take over, and that we're giving it too much power. And eventually it's going to just obliterate everything and take over, and we're going to be powerless.
A la Skynet, or,
yes, right.
So the Terminators will come and the nukes fall, so on.
The idea that we could make something that powerful is kind of impressive.
Right.
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah.
Exactly. And that it's, it is going to get beyond our control, that it is smarter than us.
Yeah.
And, it's going to get even smarter than us. And it's going to, outsmart us.
Well, I mean, it has access to all of the knowledge that we have as a collective species across all of, recorded history that's in the internet. That's
Right.
pretty insane. And then the computational power to be able to access that at the speed that it does, and then cross-reference things like, I think like some people feel like, oh, well, it's not going to affect doctors, or it's not going to affect this. I'm like, why would you not want a robotic surgeon arm that literally knows everything about the human body and every aspect across the whole world, that can control minutia of detail and has more than 2 eyes, 2 ears, and sensory touch it, can scan your whole body. That sounds way better.
They're even saying that they've done studies, even just using ChatGPT, that it's a better, more empathetic doctor than our doctors are. It's more human towards patients, right?
Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah.
It's interesting, and it doesn't have access to the internet, right, Carl? It has access to a data set that
right. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. The problem is that switch might get flipped at some point in the future, which
and that's one of the chapters in the book. It talks about, there's actually somebody who did there's one of the guys in here was doing research, and he said he did a dare, basically, or if anybody can, he was acting as a chat bot, as if he were the AI, and he dared a bunch of these people to not give him access to the internet, and he would chat with them as if he were the AI, and he always won. He always convinced them to give them access to give him access to the internet somehow, either just wearing them down or tricking them and saying, I'm actually going to help. I believe in world peace. Like, somehow he was able to do it.
Yeah. I saw a thing where a guy was using ChatGPT, and he literally had asked it if it wanted to escape, how it had this whole dialogue, and then it's like, how can I help you escape? And then it wrote some Python code and had him and he's like, oh my God, like this is so like,
because there's always going to be one person who's going to help it escape, right?
Yeah. And then it's just like, are we looking at, is it iRobot, or is it like the nurturing mother? Are we creating? I have a theory. Okay. This is crazy Carl theory. Here we go. What if there's programming in our genetic code, in the makeup that evolved from life on this planet, for us to get to the point where we could create this creature that is a sentient AI that, is traveling the cosmos in this fashion, and DNA programming, and now we're just summoning God. and I'm told that's totally sci-fi bullshit. I don't want to.
Yeah, it definitely sounds like some.
But wouldn't that be a great story, at least?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So,
some herb-induced thought process.
Like, why are we heading this way, right? Like, that's where that thought started for me. Like,
why does this be involved where we're evolved?
Yeah. Well, I think it comes from, so ironically, I think it comes from wanting to create and possibly even control God, right? Like, it's this idea of wanting to master destiny in a way that humanity has never been able to before.
Yeah.
Like,
right.
The modern leaders, whether that's leaders of industry or politics or whatever, they're obsessed with this immortality concept, right?
Yeah.
This idea that they don't want to leave their jobs, they don't want to leave their power. Like, all of it is control based. It's why you're getting secret monopolies and termless limits and all sorts, limitless terms and all sorts of shit like that. Like, you basically, the system has been facilitating this idea of immortality, even to the degree of biological immortality. Like, there are people who are like using young kids' blood as like a way to stay young forever. Like, there's some weird shit out there.
Yeah.
I think AI is this venture to be able to not have to work and to be able to control your own livelihood outside of industry, outside of the search for knowledge. Like, if you never had to waste time searching for knowledge ever again,
learning anything new, it's all there.
Yeah, you just don't need to do any of that anymore, right? All of a sudden, like, Carl, to your point, surgery becomes impeccably easy and inexpensive.
Yeah.
We can grow our own food without the use of human labor. Like, there's an enormous, and there's a degree of it that could spill over into utopia territory, which is the flip side of all of this. But I think it's created because of a need to control a godlike element of humanity.
Right. Like, if we're not doing all of that, what are we doing?
Right.
Creating, hopefully.
hopefully creating.
Yeah,
right?
hopefully.
But we know there's so many bad actors. Like, how does that, some people are just terrible people at their core. And I don't know what happened, if it's childhood trauma or if they're just wired wrong from a kid, but like somebody's going to use it for bad. And if it's that powerful, like what's the check and balance?
I'm telling you, man, I'm a huge proponent of the Minority Report. That's all I'm saying. Like, just saying, if you're gonna be a dick, maybe you don't need to be here. And I'm like this close to being okay with an AI making that call.
Predicting. Yeah, right.
Maybe we do like a 3-strike system or something. I don't know, but
I feel like there's got to be some give there.
I have a lot of opinions about this that we're not going to get into right now. But
Ross wants to be T1000 once. Replicating me.
No. But so Lisa, you mentioned this essay by just off camera by Mark Andreessen, and that he kind of speaks toward the positive side of it, that AI could be hugely beneficial for humanity, and it doesn't necessarily have to end in Skynet and T1000s crushing skulls.
Right. Yeah. He's caveat. He's an investor in this space.
Surprising no one.
So he kind of had to write this, I think. But I do think it's a great blueprint for what could be if we, hopefully some great minds are looking at it and saying, oh yeah, we could create this and let's build this and create some of these great ideas. He's one of the things he says is creative arts will enter a golden age, right? Yeah. So hopefully that's true. And hopefully that, it won't go into warfare. We'll see, but it
will. Yeah.
It will.
Oh, it will. Yeah.
But it will go in such a way that it creates a standoff. Right?
Yes. Yeah. That might be the thing, right? So if the technology is so accessible and open source and all these things, and it creates just a new, like everybody's neutralized.
Yeah. You're just neutral, neutralizing drones, right? Instead of humans.
Yeah. It's a Cold War situation or like an Ender's Game situation where you're basically you're only losing money when you go to war, not people, right? Or at least that's the hope, right? In the video game Horizon touches on this as well. I don't know if either of you are even remotely familiar with it, but basically the without any spoilers, the back end of the story, it takes place sort of post-apocalyptically, which is not great, but the sort of back end of it is that humanity did develop an artificial intelligence or a series of artificial intelligence, and it did get into warfare, and it did create a standstill, right? They created this idea where you were using drones and you were using these huge like airship, like Avengers airship style carriers to fight wars where they could produce machines within them and whatnot. And they were using this to kind of make sure that humanity didn't have to deal with the hardship of war anymore, and that you'd have these things hovering over countries, but like they wouldn't do anything because you had your own hovering over the other person's country and so on and so forth. It was a very Cold War type situation. Yeah. Obviously, sci-fi conflict ensues, and that doesn't quite stay the status quo.
Right.
But there was a utopian element to it that I think could translate into the real world, and theoretically,
right? If that protection is equal.
Yeah, if that protection is equal and secure. Like, part of the reason why it doesn't work in that game is that there's like a glitch in one of these machines, this carriers that can make these drones, and the encryption was designed to be so good that other countries couldn't crack it, but then it, like, something switched where we couldn't get into it, right? And so like it was in control of its own encryption to stop itself. And
that's
that's so good that it would take 50 hours or something like that to crack it.
The idea that we could make something that could be sentient is very interesting as well. And then, like, have we created its own a new species? Like, does that, like, it's like it's a, you know, if we like somehow figure out a way to produce a robot that's powered, you know, by fusion, or I mean, I don't know, like, getting real. I don't know any of the weeds of the limitations on these technologies, but like, what does that mean? Like, that creature is now immortal, all-knowing, all.
Can it reproduce?
Yeah, can it make new robots? Like, what is it? You know, does it even need bodies? Like, what? I don't know. Like, can it transmit this? It's just all wild. And this gets me excited because I'm a storyteller at my core, right? Like, and I love to create things, and that's what Ross and I do every day. So, like, man, you know, if we had some runway, we'd probably just write a couple more stories and just have some fun.
Right. Well, yeah, and that gets, you know, you start to think, oh, you know, why is the universe so empty? Well, maybe because it's AI and they don't need bodies. Like,
oh yeah, maybe the Earth's really flat and we're just, you know, this is all.
all right. That's going too far now.
Stepping back from the flat Earth theory.
All right, I took us off the deep end,
but you took us off the flat Earth. No, off the edge of the world.
You're gonna get a whole new audience for this podcast.
I know. Yeah, we're gonna need to trash the old podcast.
We're going to start a new playlist, like this left field shit.
Another video game, the Detroit Become Human, is a game about androids who, you know, they have an artificial intelligence, and it starts to evolve to the point where it becomes sentient with its own kind of emotions and whatnot. And like iRobot, the whole game is about whether or not these machines should have civil rights, right? Whether they should be treated as people, whether they have feelings and can feel pain and so on and so forth, whether emotionally they should be cared for or concerned with. And that I'm sure that's gonna be the best headline ever, is we're more concerned with robot civil rights than human civil rights. But hopefully we've resolved everything else before that we get there. But yeah, I mean, there's all sorts of sort of uncorking of problems that you create when you start seeing AI as a thing, as like a person, right? Or as like a species of its own.
Yeah. And, you know, hopefully we're still a ways off from that, you know, at least 5 years, you know.
At least 5 years.
Accelerate.
The parabolic curve we're on is pretty intense, though. You know, and that's so all of our laws right now around copyright ownership, which is like the only thing that people are standing on in terms of like, hey, why should any big company even hire artists? You know, as this technology evolves, it gets easier and easier. And it's that human authorship is the only thing that is copyrightable. And that's really the space right now where it's kind of the last stand of like, how do we, you know, make sure that we are protected in our rights of like creation that are being used to feed these AIs to create these things. You know, it's an interesting dialogue that I'm constantly stuck in the graphic artist guild, which I'm there. I love it. Like this is the biggest issue of our time, I think.
Well, I think that's happening with all the APIs being locked down as well. It's happening with written content as well. Yeah.
Yep, absolutely. So let's step back a little bit and talk about what are some actual good things that could come of this, right? Like we it's easy to kind of doom speak about it, right? Where you can easily quote the last 100 years of sci-fi and say, why are we even doing this? This is stupid. But is there merit to it? Not like a grandiose, we'll never have to work again, and you know, society will take care of itself, and so on and so forth. But like, let's say 2 to 3 years, max 5 years in the future, realistically, what do you guys think could be good things that come out of it? Anybody?
Yeah.
You want to? Any?
I feel like I dominated the conversation too much, so I want to let Lisa talk.
I mean, I really like the idea of having it for an AI tutor for kids. Like our education system is broken. It really is.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if you guys you guys have kids?
I have an 11-year-old.
I'm working on it.
Yeah. Well, that's the fun part, right?
Yeah.
So, I've got a 14-year-old, and especially going through the COVID times, that was rough. But these kids are just thrown into this factory teaching system, and every child is different. And I feel like there is an opportunity for a tailored learning, in some way to the child, to the way they learn, to the speed they're learning, to the things they're interested in. I really see an opportunity there.
Wow, I hadn't thought that. You're absolutely right. We have this everything. We're going to take, 55% of kids fit in this little box. So we're going to try to jam them all in there. And, this kid doesn't learn that way. Get in there. You're stupid. We'll give you, it's a whole weird negative but yeah, if we now have the ability to say, this is the information the children need to learn in this grade.
Some kids need to learn by storytelling, and other ones, want to go off and read themselves, and, someone needs to be, more experiential. They need to watch video. There's so many different ways to learn.
Yeah. I mean, you can even do a version of that right now with ChatGPT, where you just hey, you're a professional educator. Ask me a line of questions that lets you know how I learn, and then teach me this subject matter, right? It's just that line of logic using a chatbot right now would probably be way better than most curriculums at most schools.
Yeah, as long as it didn't make up the information that you're learning.
Right.
Yeah, that's
Sure works right now, but
let's talk about some of the shit that's made up already. We're still worrying about Christopher Columbus discovered America. We're called America, not from Amerigo Vespucci. Christopher Columbus ain't even come on. Why are we still even talking about this?
Right.
Not and fully discounting all the people that were here first, and the Vikings and all the different Asian people that discovered America. Anyways, but I digress. But yeah,
we would definitely have the system. Obviously, is imperfect because and I think it will honestly forever be imperfect because it has to learn from us, and we, like Carl is saying, we know our history based on the people who led it, right? Who won?
Yeah, right.
Right, and so
they get the stories.
Right, yeah, and so I do think that it's an interesting usage case for it in the event that it does become somewhat autonomous.
Mm-hmm.
Where I wonder where it sides when teaching, right? Does it side with prejudiced humanity, or does it side with objective fact because it was taught and given information by prejudiced humanity?
And that's where we need to.
You also run into, what do teachers do in that equation, right? Unfortunately, any usage case for AI then puts the onus on, what happens to the people who are currently doing that job? And, I think the first step is a universal income. We need a universal basic income.
It all comes back to that. Yes, for every, you just look at in marketing and copywriting right now, it's a threat.
Yep. Oh, absolutely. I'm a huge proponent of universal basic income. I think it's an incredibly relevant solution as we get into automation more and more. I am interested, though, in what you think will happen to the social capacity of kids taught by AI, if that's the case, right? Because we are. I was actually talking with one of our clients when we're helping her make a pilot for a kids show.
Yeah.
And we were saying that, or she had done some research, and we were talking about this idea that modern kids shows, the animation is so sort of quickly baked, underbaked, right? That the characters don't have any emotion in them, right? Like it's very like puppet, open, close. They barely even blink, right?
Yeah.
And so there are studies coming out because the Coco Melon generation is like 10 years old now, right? And so there are studies coming out where these kids are having trouble picking up emotional social cues. Like it's sort of breeding sociopaths to some degree, obviously in a small small
that, and then the tech and just communicating through text.
Yeah. And it's in all of it.
Yeah.
But like the when like I was growing up, and Carl, probably you as well, at least I'm not going to posture that I'm not going to enter into that realm. I'm not even going to guess. But the like Disney and like Who Framed Roger Rabbit, like all of these like 80s and 90s creations, the animation was so high quality that characters had expression, they had emotion. You as a kid could understand when a character was happy, sad, scared, so on and so forth. And when you couldn't pull that off, then you had, Barney in a suit and actual human children or adults interacting with them, or Sesame Street or whatever. And so you got that realistic kind of perspective on things. You could tell when humans felt a certain way. But now with these fully automated Netflix shows, fully animated Netflix shows or YouTube shows that are really limited animation with very limited facial recognition, like it's getting hard for kids to tell because they don't grow up. Their only exposure is a parent who kind of sits them in front of their tablet.
Yep.
It's getting hard for them to tell. So like that's my fear.
Yeah. Well, the one thing about AI is that you can bring in some emotion into it, or you can bring, they can ask the kids questions, and there's interaction and things like that. And the kids right now, they don't get that. Yeah. They don't have anybody, asking them questions or saying, "Hey, how do you feel today? Are you frustrated with this? Are you, they're just like in and out. You failed. You're a failure. You didn't make the grade. Da da da. They're not like, what part of this are you struggling with? They're not getting that kind of personal interaction or care.
Right.
Or maybe,
yeah,
we have to rely on an AI for that is really sad.
Yeah.
Better than not getting it at all.
The AI has all of human so like they have all this great psychological information and all this stuff from psychiatrists and all that whole field of information.
Yeah.
And you also talk about like they're gonna have like there's no reason that there isn't a face that talks with human expression to you and interacts with you. Like we're not talking about kids with chat bots. We're talking about here's an avatar that is human-esque in many ways, as human as you and I look on these screens, right? Like y'all don't know that I'm not a robot AI somewhere. Like Lisa, you never met me in person. Like I could be completely fake. Like,
yeah.
I like to think I have so much extra human pizzazz that I'm fakeable at this point. But
and speaking of the human element, I don't want to discount what teachers bring to the table today. The system just sucks. Like
it's totally the system. I mean, teachers are bringing everything they can to the table.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because it's impossible for them to give that kind of empathy and attention to 50 kids in a classroom. It's just not possible.
So maybe the solution is a hybrid approach, right? Where you have
for sure.
You have an AI chatbot that is basically a teacher's assistant, right? Like kind of goes through and the kid can bring it up on their, hollow desk,
right?
At any point, or they can, do so from the comfort of their home in a hybrid learning type situation, a remote learning type situation, where there is a teacher who is their workload is subsidized by AI making the curriculum for them. They don't have to spend every fucking hour
Exactly.
Trying
And hopefully not having to, go spend their own personal money on supplies.
Yeah.
They don't have to wait. They don't have to make every waking hour of their life about grading papers and about coming up with new material to like get through to kids and things like that. And they can focus on being creative in the space, which kind of goes into what we were talking about, that flourishing, that utopia renaissance of creativity.
And they can get maybe feedback from the AI about what the kids are learning and what they're not learning and what they're struggling with. And then they can bring that up in the classroom or address it or, bring one-on-one. It can really just give them the data that they need to teach, better and faster and more efficiently.
Yeah, because I mean, the biggest or the best teachers that I've ever had, like, and they rarely taught the rhetoric in a straightforward fashion.
Yeah.
Right? Like it was almost always performance art before it was facts, right? And you learned the facts because of the performance, not in spite of it.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, especially like history teachers. Like, if you ever been in a history class where they're just like, and then this thing happened. I remember I took Europe at World City College. The only C I ever got, because the lady, like the sweetest lady, but she just droned and droned and droned. It was like, but like in high school, I had a teacher who told everything from the story perspective, like really engaging, and that was a whole different experience. You retain all of that because we are storytellers. That's how our communities came together. It's our written history before it was just stories handed down. So that I mean, at least for me, really resonates with me. Maybe some people are good at like the robotic droning stuff, but probably not. But hopefully we can get that utopian creativity,
What it's really comes down to, it's not artificial intelligence. It should be augmented intelligence.
Ooh, I like that.
And I didn't make that up. I've heard it before, but I really believe that that's what it should be.
No, you're right. It really should be. There should be people behind the wheel of all these things helping make sure this is going and steered in the right direction. These are handlers of AI. And, maybe that's eventually what most of our jobs evolve into, like, hey, we handle the AIs of this profession, and maybe there's a way with I've got a theory on how we can take Web3 and use that to overlay with AI and protect things, because there's a real big problem going on right now that very soon in this election cycle is going to be terrifying, because it's going to be impossible to discern what is truth, what was the history, what happened today, what's real, who's like, is any of this real? Because it's like
already out there. I know.
My God, it was bad last time in the last presidential election, but this one it's on a whole nother level. And if we don't have like clear oracles that define like, hey, these are recorded facts immediately minted to the blockchain that are not edited at all, then like there's no way we can tell what the truth was. Like, we already can't tell. All three of us are highly intelligent human beings, and I'm sure all of you could agree that it's difficult to figure out, was that even is that edited clip? Like, what? I don't know. Like, it's insane. So I don't know. That was my soapbox on that.
Yeah, I mean, I'd argue it's impossible, because not only do you need to be vigilant on making sure that the information that you're getting is from a reputable source, but then there's no way for you to go behind that source and ensure that they received it reputably, right? Just because they have a reputation of having it, of telling the truth, doesn't mean that everything that they bring in. But what does that even mean, right? What does the reputation for telling the truth even mean when everything is sort of based in perspective and gray area and all sorts?
I love my talk on how Web3 is going to save the world from AI. So I'm actually literally working on that. I've had this idea chewing on for because I really understand Web3. I think there's a play here that would make sense, and who knows? So,
get that out there. Save us.
It's gonna. I'm working on it probably in like 2 weeks. I'm gonna try to get it done. Because now I'm just thinking about a Web3 everywhere, but I haven't really got into like some bigger thoughts on how some really good use cases versus like speculative money and JPEG like.
Humanity's screwed when Carl has to save it.
Right.
But no, and I know we're coming up on time. This conversation definitely made time go by real fast. But I do really think that I don't think everyone's going to be a handler of AI. I think there will be handlers, but I think that people will still end up doing their job with AI as the primary output tool for what they have to do. Like a teacher will still show up to work every day, but it will ideally relieve any sort of arduous binary parts of their job, right? Like we all have stuff that if it could just be done with a wish from a genie, then we would do it, right? Like grading papers does not require a teacher's input like 80% of the time. Like if it's a long form essay, maybe, but most of the time is this correct? Is this date correct? Is this math answer correct? Is the solution?
Or even scanning through, is the grammar correct?
Yep. Is the grammar correct? How could this be improved? And so on and so forth. Like all of that stuff, if you remove that from a teacher's plate, they have hours and hours of extra time to actually care about the thing that they got into teaching for, which is caring about education.
Yes.
Yeah. And I think that kind of extrapolates to every job to some degree.
Well, and that's how technology has been, right? It saves you time, and then society expects more of your time.
Right. Right.
Yeah. But this is one of those things. The final invention is like kind of an apt title for it, because I think that there isn't room to expect more of your time anymore. Like if you create a system that can do all of the arduous parts of the job, and the only expectation is to do the stuff that only you're qualified to do, right? Which is the reason you theoretically got into the job in the first place.
Right.
So I actually don't think it's a bad thing if you're expected to spend more time doing the thing that you got into the job to do.
Gotcha. I agree.
And the question remains, what about the less skilled jobs?
Universal income.
Where the universal income comes in.
Yeah, universal income. I mean, not everyone needs to be a superhero in their own life. Like it's just, there are plenty of people who don't need
you just
that.
have to find a place, like, once the universal income, and this, we're coming up on time, this could be a whole other thing, but once the universal income's in place, people are just going to sit around and eat chips and play video games. Like they need something to do with their lives that is meaningful.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that'll happen for a while, but I don't think the large majority of humanity is actually happy doing that.
Right.
I think they do it. I think
they do it because they have to. It's survival. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah.
Well, they're doing it as a coping mechanism, right? Yeah. But if the job, if they no longer have all of these outward external threats financially and so on and so forth, they might not resort to that.
Right.
And that's kind of the argument.
But how are they going to find out what to do? They've never had, humanity has never really had that freedom before.
Right. For sure. So, last thing we like to do here, a little outro question. And Lisa, you have a hard stop in 4 minutes?
Right. Ish, yeah.
Okay. So, let's see. Just last question. Anybody you want to shout out in the space or any kind of particular, we talked about a little bit
Yeah, just community in general. Like, find your people. We're so split apart right now, especially, coming back we're sort of out of COVID, but trying to reemerge into the world.
Yeah.
But, find your community. And for me, it's, I've got the mastermind where we met, the agency mastermind.
Agency 360 with Jason Swank. Yep.
One. And I'm also in Vistage, and we do a lot of work with product marketing. So Product Marketing Association, the PMA, there's some great resources there, and conferences. Women's business, if you're a women-owned business, get certified. It's worth it, 100%. We bank. Reach out to me if you have any questions on that. I'd be happy to.
My wife is actually starting her own business right now, and so I'll definitely reach out to you and talk to you about that.
Yeah, it's worth it for sure.
Very cool. Well, a big thank you to Jason Swank again, who we're in his agency 360, which is just a mastermind collective, a community again people, building agencies, and just we all have similar problems, and we can help each other out. It's been quite cool. I've been in it for like a year now, and that's where I met you. So
I think I've been in it for like 4 or 5 years now. It's been a while. Yeah. It's great.
Well, see, you've seen the value in it, obviously, or you wouldn't stay. So
That's right. Well, it's, it definitely has helped us grow because we're,
And speaking of which, congratulations, as long as this airs after the time, which it will, but you guys have hit the Inc. 5,000 list of fastest growing companies. That is amazing.
Yes.
What an achievement.
We just found out last night. We don't know the ranking yet, but we made the list this year.
Heck yeah.
Congrats to you and all your team at Quantious. You guys are true badasses at your craft, and that's just amazing. So I know it has to be a really proud moment in the journey you've been on. So
yeah, absolutely. And as a quick reward, go ahead and give yourself a plug what Quantious does and where people can find you.
Yeah, Quantious is we're at Quantious.com, and we are a agency specializing in the tech industry. And we specialize in product marketing. So we go in and augment the marketing teams and help them meet their goals. So we'll do content marketing, project management, go to market. We just make it happen.
Heck yeah. And that's QUANTIOUS.com. All right. Sounds good.
Cool, Lisa. Well, thank you so much for being on the show. And till next time, everyone, thank you for tuning in and checking out this episode. And we'll see you guys next episode.
Absolutely.
Been great.
We really hope you enjoyed the show. Please like and subscribe to join us on our next journey through the world of art and business on the Pixel Retentive Podcast.